Well, have you guys recovered from the bad news yesterday about the cancelled Mando game? Well, unfortunately, I've got some salt for that wound with basically some more details on what the Mando game was supposed to be, which doesn't make its cancellation make any more sense. If anything, it just makes me more frustrated that the game was cancelled. I do, however, have a small glimmer of actual positive news in regards to the KOTOR Remake that I will get to in the second part of the video that maybe balances this up a little bit, but still, the Mando game sounded amazing and I do not understand why they cancelled it. So what am I talking about here? Well, Insider Gaming, Tom Henderson, did some digging after he found out that the game was cancelled. He was also the one who reported that this was a Mandalorian game a couple of weeks ago, but he reached out and actually got some more details on what this game was supposed to be, and it basically sounds like the safest thing ever, and I mean that in a positive way. Like, EA are saying that they cancel this for financial risk, when I think that the safest game you could make that will sell at least a decent amount, but most likely a lot of copies, is a Mandalorian game. The Mandalorian is arguably the biggest character in Star Wars right now. Like, the Mandalorian really reinvigorated Star Wars together with Grogu when they arrived on Disney+. And people have been asking for a Bounty Hunter Mandalorian game ever since. And this would have been exactly that. So how the hell is this a financial risk to EA? Unless they would have completely screwed up the game, which Respawn tends to not do, this would have sold so well and they still cancelled it. Absolute idiots, if you ask me. And the actual details we get here from Tom makes it even stranger. I mean, he says that by all accounts, this game was fantastic, and that's not just coming from the developers, but everyone who had a chance to play the game. Feedback from the playtests was always positive and surrounded by buzz, with the developers enjoying the entire process of working on the project. That being said, for whatever reason, EA felt like the game was too much of a financial risk and has decided to pull the plug. So what was the game actually about? Well, you were supposed to play a Mandalorian bounty hunter, not the Mandalorian from the series, but a random one, and you would actually be starting off with the Den, which would be your kind of base of operations that contain your ship, a map of the galaxy, an upgrade station, armory, kind of what you would expect from a bounty hunter game. And here you could select which bounties you wanted to pursue, equip the weapons you wanted, upgrade your armor, and then go into the ship and land on the planet where the bounty is located. Sounds like a dream to me, to be honest. And it wasn't an open world game, but more a kind of linear level experience with some larger open areas. And the combat was very fast paced due to the Mandalorian's jetpack, so you could have vertical dashing, horizontal dashing, and reach those kind of high to reach places. And there was a takedown feature similar to Doom, but just less gory to take down enemies. And some of the main enemies were stormtroopers who would patrol most of the maps as you tried to find your actual bounty, and several different types of stormtroopers like regular, shotgun, sniper, heavy, and so on. And there was also boss-like enemies which would see you face AT-ST walkers and other kind of local enemies depending on what planet you would be on. According to Tom, it seems like the game was still quite far off from its release, but that it had a very polished vertical slice and a few other missions and levels that was pretty much near completion. So it wasn't just in prototype stages, and yet EA for some reason cancelled it. It makes no sense to me. I think if you would have explained exactly this game to any Star Wars fan, they would have been sold. Casual and hardcore Star Wars fans. The people who might only know about the Mandalorian and Grogu would still be excited to play this. It kind of seems like EA just closed their eyes and randomly pointed their finger at a project that they were gonna cancel to save some money. It's so incredibly stupid and just shows how absolutely out of touch the executives at EA actually are. Because I don't think there's a single person at Respawn who wanted this to happen. This is just EA being completely out of touch with the gaming community. But next up then, what are the good news I have for you? Well, you guys probably know that the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake has been in a lot of trouble. Initially, it was supposed to be made by Aspyr and was then moved over to Saber Interactive, and there were rumors that it was cancelled, but then they said it was alive, and Embracer's CEO refused to comment on it back in November. Well, Bloomberg just reported that Saber Interactive will actually be sold away from Embracer in a $500 million deal and will be sold to private investors. So why is this good? Well, first of all, it means that Embracer will no longer be in control of Saber Interactive. So for instance, they can't pull an EA and just go like, oh, we're gonna cancel your project to save money, you have no say about it. That can't happen anymore, so that's a good thing, because Embracer have already shut down multiple studios and projects in order to try and save money. Secondly, Jason Schreier, who actually broke this news, did say that the Knights of the Old Republic is still in the works. It's not very convincing though, because when he was asked specifically about this out on Twitter, he said, I can't promise it will actually come out, but yes, it's still alive. And that to me is kind of a strange statement, because if you are a game developer, you either commit to let's do this, or you just cancel it. There's no point in half-assing it and developing it for months or years thinking that you might just cancel it, because then you might as well cancel it right away. So I'm hoping that maybe this will give some new hope to this project, that when they no longer have to look over their shoulder, knowing that Embracer can just pull the plug at any moment. We obviously don't know who these private investors are and how much control they will have, but since it's not going to be part of a publicly owned company anymore, it means that the pressure to try and please the stockholders is not going to be as bad. So I think that overall this is good news, and the fact that even during all this stuff they aren't just going out and saying that it's cancelled, it means that the project lives on until we hear something else. This would have been I guess, perfect time to just say, oh, we are being sold and we're cancelling it, by the way. Just kind of slipping it in there if they actually wanted to cancel it. But the fact that they don't shows that they still have the intentions to release it. Why Jason says that he doesn't know if it's ever gonna be released, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he knows exactly the situation with the project, but mostly just broke the news about the Saber Interactive split from the Embracer group. So all in all, some bad news, some good news. I'm still really frustrated with the Mandalorian game overall, because EA's reasoning makes absolutely no sense, and everything they said about licensing costs and such, it seems like Disney are gonna have to do something on their end too. They might have to reduce the cost of actually making Star Wars games, because as we've all seen, the entire games industry are having issues with layoffs all across the board and profit margins maybe not being as high as before. So if Disney wants those Star Wars games to happen, they gotta let loose a little bit of those licensing fees. I know they do have their big Epic Games, Fortnite, Disney Star Wars project going, but they have to realize that no matter how big that project is, it's not gonna fill all the different Star Wars gaming gaps. There are so many stories to be told, so many multiplayer experiences that the community want. Just making one large one to try and cater to everything, that's usually gonna be crap. It might be good for something, for instance, like I speculated in my video about that, it might be great for creating our own experiences. That's kind of what I'm hoping, that they're basically gonna squeeze all the Star Wars characters and planets in there, and then we can create maybe our own experiences, and if you want to, you can mix other Disney franchise stuff as well, like Iron Man or whatever. But if you want to make a full Star Wars experience, I hope we're gonna be able to do that too. But like I said, that doesn't fill nearly enough of the need of Star Wars games. So let's hope that the Mandalorian game is going to be the last cancelled Star Wars game we hear about in the near future, but that's the optimistic view. Realistically, I would be surprised if we do not hear about another cancelled Star Wars game this year. Most likely it would be the Bit Reactor Respawn strategy game, Star Wars Eclipse, or Amy Hennig Star Wars game. If all of those three games survive the release, I'm gonna be extremely surprised. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.